Good morning, everybody. Jayy here with another War of the Visions video, and today we have our weekly meta report where we go through a tier list, we look at what is rising in the meta, what is falling in the meta, and what units or team comps you can use to help your guild win guild wars. In today's episode, we have a couple, I'll say new entries to the list, although they're not secret new entries. They've been rising. We have one group that's falling a little bit that has been pretty steady for a long time. So, yeah, let's get into the list. Okay, so we'll kick things off with one that was on here last week, but I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment to, and that's the Healer plus Agility card. I'm not going to say a ton here, because this is still really good, it's still really versatile, it's still a great idea to take your, like, mage support, whether it's Leela, Ayaka, whoever, throw Helena's Vision card on them, and then just put your other good units in there. However, this week, I want to differentiate between Halloween Little Leela and the other supports. She has risen in priority because of something you're going to see later in the video, right? Hint, hint, it's Evasion coming up the list. But with Evasion creeping higher up the tier list, actually getting their own slide today, Halloween Leela does separate herself because she's a legit Evasion unit. So she's SS tier, the rest of it's still S tier. This has been on the list for 2 weeks in a row, so not a whole lot to say here that's new. Let's just roll on to the next one. Alright, second up on the list, another familiar face. That is Sakura and friends. Sakura, in my opinion, continues to be the best solo carry in the game right now, and so that has her just locked in at that S tier. Dark units are still really prevalent. She absolutely annihilates dark units. Light units are still really prevalent. She can buff against dark and light with a little lightning, splashed in. She still is solidly in the meta and solidly sitting towards the top of the meta. She also pairs really well with the Little Leela plus Agility card or with any of the other healers plus Agility card. She's insanely versatile right now as the best solo carry in the game, in my opinion. So not a whole lot new to say here. She's just sticking at that spot where she was last week on the list, firmly in the S tier. Alright, let's go next. Alright. Next up, Evasion getting its own entry into the tier list off of the rising stars and firmly establishing themselves as an S tier comp in the current meta. I actually debated whether putting them in the S tier comp, and I think if this was purely a Guild Wars defense video, I would have shoved them into that double S tier. However, with this being just a general Guild Wars tier list, I'm going S. Now, there are some things to say about this comp that might hurt its rating a little bit. One is it's very dependent on vision cards. You really need at least 2 very high level or maxed out Evasion enhancing cards. I'm talking like Shiva that has Evasion on it, or Ketone's Vision card which has luck. I'm talking about an agility boosting card. You need those cards for Evasion to work. You also need gear for Evasion to work. So it's not a very easy comp to run as a new player. However, the Evasion units are really, really strong. Ruinstern, phenomenal unit. Venera, phenomenal unit. Halloween Little Leela, one of the best units in the game. So the units are strong, and Evasion is very tricky to deal with. I mentioned it would be double S on defense, and hey, we won another Guild Wars last night because no one could kill my Evasion team. It just had, like, I could tell the enemy was just out of accuracy, and they just threw themselves at me about 3 or 4 times, and they just couldn't hit me. So, Evasion as a defensive strategy, really, really good. Evasion as an offensive strategy, hey, if you know the person's not running accuracy, you can just go get 6 stars. Like, they can't kill you. Unless they have, like, Sharpshoot, or they have Holy, or they're running ginGY or something like that. But very dependent on gear, very dependent on vision cards, and despite all that, still insanely strong in the meta. If you can pull off an Evasion team, hey, you're in it right now. You're going to have a good few weeks of Guild Wars if Evasion is something your squad can do. Cool. Alright, let's go to the next one. Okay, so at 6, I'm going to take the Dark Bros, who've been on this list since the beginning of this series, and I'm going to take them down 1 tier. So why is that? Well, for one, Sakura exists, right? And Sakura and the Dark Bros have been kind of on the same tier for me for a while, but that was because they kind of just, I don't want to say countered each other, but they were definitely like opponents for each other. However, now with the rise of Evasion, with the rise of some comps I'm going to talk about here in a second, they don't really counter any of those comps. Dwayne and Kane have a hard time against Evasion. They just do. And so with Evasion rising, with Sakura and her like friends who might be able to use Holy, or, you know, if Sakura can hit an Evasion unit, she'll one-shot them for sure. I just think that the Dark Bros are finally starting to creep down. And this is after a week of watching my guild and some of the other guilds that I talk to and watch their Guild Wars videos with just feast on the Dark Bros. A Dark Defense team is not as daunting of a task as it used to be, and you can't just go run Men in Black and collect stars anymore. I don't know, it feels weaker to me now, and this is a little bit of a feel move on my part. These guys tend to group up next to each other, and then Sakura can just run over and drop an AoE on them, or Killfei can run up to them and just energy buster them to the face. There's just, I think it's time for the Dark Bros to step down to A. Now, if you disagree with that, tell me why you disagree with that and put that in the comments, because I will, I reconsider every one of these comps every week. So if I see Dark Bros is dominating for a week, I might consider moving them back up. However, they have been one of the weaker, consistent comps that I saw in Guild Wars this last week. And they sure weren't the things that we had to clear last in our Guild Wars. And they sure weren't the comps on our Guild Wars offense that were doing the best. Okay, let's go next. Ooh, okay, another squad moving up in priority is missiles to me. I think at this point I'm willing to shove missiles into the SS tier. Now hear me out on this. I've been warming on triple missile teams for a while, and I'm not talking only about triple missile teams, but I have seen triple missile teams, which is a hard thing to say, succeeding consistently for weeks now. They have the damage, they have the accuracy to just win fights before it's a fight, right? You're like buffing and moving in, and they're just like die. Now, they do have weakness, and their weakness is like heavy missile resist teams. So watch out for that. And I just don't think that's prevalent enough, right? Like, who has Mobius, the vision card? Well, I know like two people, one person in my guild does. I know some of the like mega whales out there do, but for most people, I don't feel like they have a super UR missile resist card ready to rock. And with the range on this map where there's just this pit in the way, man, missile teams can just function. Also, with the rise of Evade, a missile team has to level up, in my opinion. You can easily mix in 1 or 2 units with Sharpshoot into a triple missile team, or a double missile team with support. Hey, run Nivlu and Lucia, or Nivlu and Frederica, and just sharpshoot these Evade units. One thing about Evade is they typically don't have a lot of health, so a sharpshoot on a well-built missile team will just start one-shotting people. That's really good. So missile makes that jump to SS on my list here. Barely. I debated on this one for a while, so let me know how you feel about that one too. I'll read the room on this missile ranking, but for me right now, I'm locking them in as my second SS comp of the week. And the next one, this is another SS comp. Even though it's not really a comp as much as it is just like an idea. This is the tanks and tricks, right? Like a solidly built, really great tank that's built to fight something specifically is never bad. And on a map like this, where manipulating your first couple of turns is so important, it continues to just be like an SS strategy on this current map, right? Like, use your turn 0 hate to manipulate movement. Use your TMRs to group your people up. Get into Guild Wars practice. Test this stuff out. This is always going to be somewhat good, running a tank and manipulating the early turns. On a map like we have now, where there's this huge gap in the middle and you have to like try to not group up against some people, manipulating your early turns is even more important than on shorter maps where you can just, you know, run a bunch of DPS and destroy somebody. So tanks and tricks continues to be SS, and I'm still feeling pretty confident about that one. It also depends on like if your tank is Agrius or not, because Agrius is just so good. Alright, let's go next. And then, like always, we will end the video with our Rising Stars list. These are just individual units or individual things that I've seen kind of eke their way back into the meta. Now, Killfae's been on this list for like a month. She just fits so many things. I have a hard time like plugging her into a certain comp, so I just keep putting her on the Rising Stars list. What do I mean? Well, she's a great friend for Sakura. Build a magic group, have Killfae be like your tank. She's awesome there. She has Holy, she can fight evasion units, she can tank through missile units because a lot of them are lightning and she's earth. Killfae, solid S tier unit right now, and will be as long as those other things are in the meta. Okay, what else? Anything else with a 100% hit ability? Glaciella, for example, who's a great like high damage bruiser who has a guaranteed hit move that can kill evasion units in one shot. Also, a lot of evasion units are slash type. Glaciella has nice slash resistance. She's very good into evasion. You might think about including her in some anti-evasion comps if that's something you're struggling to build. Older evasion units like Auronnj are creeping back in. You're starting to see him in Guild Wars a lot again at a high level. And then, you know, the other tanks to run in the tanks plus tricks. Your Darios, your Monts, your Warrior of Lights, your Ingleberts. Whoever you have to be your tank, those are always going to be good. And, you know, like I always say, you can basically take anything you want to play, build it correctly for a fight, and win in PvP in this game, as long as you can find the fight you're looking for. Cool. Alright, that's basically all I got for you guys this week. If you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, please use my Amazon affiliate link down in the description. You can save up to 20% on Amazon coins. Like, for real, play this game through the Amazon Play Store because you just save a ton of money if you're ever going to spend. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see y'all in the next video.